The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the position of the management and staff of Guardian Network.
This morning, my independent Bahamas. Now, I had to sing that because Facebook them don't like the copyrights too much, you see. I don't want to be dissing my Bahamian, but them, y'all deserve your copyrights because we are the world. We are the children, right? Good morning to my guest today, Mr. Sherlin Gaudet from Conch Boy Marketing.
Yep. One of the things I'm involved with is Conch Boy Marketing. We'll explain that later.
Absolutely. And I want to say good morning to my guest co-host, Mr. Darwin Thompson. Are you in the Zoom room? Well, he may be there. He may be there shortly. My guest co-host couldn't make it into studio with me this morning because of the traffic on the road. Yeah. Now, it wasn't just the traffic on the road, I could be honest with you, because there's always traffic on the road. It's something about when it's raining.
Rain and traffic.
This make Bahamians panic. As if the car gonna melt. Now, I could be honest, I had about 3 cars. I was convinced it was gonna melt in the rain because of rust-related situations, right?
I see.
But for the average driver, that ain't the problem that you have.
Right.
Now, I witnessed 2 accidents on the way into the station this morning. My guest co-host said that he witnessed about 3 or 4. And he's on the road after me. I want to say, dear Bahamians, now is not the time to be playing with people's lives. No. Now is not the time to be driving with your cell phone in your hand. Now is not the time to be driving with your headphones in your ears. Don't mind that the police are not paying attention. You don't need the police to figure out how to govern yourself. Because this is independence time. And independence is all about your ability and capacity to govern yourself. I want to say good morning to the person that parked their fancy Cadillac on the sidewalk on Cumberland Street. Imagine the pedestrians that not only with barely any sidewalk have to walk down it in the rain with reckless drivers, but now they got to walk in the road to get around your fancy Cadillac. And guess what? I know you could afford to pay for parking. It's your fancy Cadillac. Please don't do that to poor people. We are not here to make your lives easier. There's a saying, poor people must die so mediocre people could live their best life.
Wow.
Not in the Bahamas, though. Not in the Bahamas. Good morning, everybody. It is Friday, the 2nd of July, 2021, and you are on the clock with Erin, Greene. On the clock, we engage organizations, institutions, social and cultural leaders, and ordinary people to better understand the impact of public policy, private sector development, and emerging social and consumer trends. On the clock, we have conversations that help us understand and navigate a rapidly changing Bahamas. Today's show is brought to you by the Department of Inland Revenue. And again, I start the show with this reminder that the Department of Inland Revenue has extended the Real Property Tax Forgiveness Program. The offer now ends August 31st, 2021. You can bring your account to zero payment plan, choosing one of these two options, and foreigners can receive a 100% waiver on surcharge. For further information, email rptforgive@bahamas.gov.bs or call 242-225-5778, toll free. And you hear the seriousness in my voice when I read that message. Please, even if you are troubled, even if you feel nervous, even if you feel like you don't have the capacity to deal with this, find somebody to help you, find someone you trust that can help you understand the steps ahead of you. Call that number and they will help you start the process. It is Culture Fridays. I got some little bit of housekeeping to do. The first thing I want to say is there's an interesting opinion piece in today's Nassau Guardian called Dark Tourism for the Bahamas, ? It's an interesting read, and I think everybody should grab a copy of today's paper and take a look at it. It's a very interesting read. It is exploring another type of tourism that we could be taking advantage of here. Like dark tourism, they say that disaster tourism is a part of that, right? Like that's where after a massive storm, you would invite people into your country to either observe or participate in the restoration process, right? There are lots of groups who would volunteer to come be a part of that. Also, in this type of tourism, you know, you're going to go into people's countries and look at the darkest parts of their history, right? And so that would be inviting people here to learn about the transatlantic slave trade, the enslavement of Africans, and their lived experiences while they are here. I think this is a very fascinating avenue.
I don't know if I get a talk or not, but I mean that piques my curiosity because I watched the show on Netflix about dark tourism, and it was a very interesting show. And like you said, it's
right into the mic.
Like you said, it shows some of the dark parts of these places, but there's a lot of history and there's a lot of who, what, how, and why. And that's, what I'm interested in when I go and visit places. I don't want to do some of the touristy things and you drink the same margarita and you buy the same cup.
Right.
I want to know about the place. And unfortunately, it's through some dark things that tell you what the country is like and why the people are the way they are.
Absolutely. And, I just want to say that I'm really interested in exploring this, like, personally, right? Like, what opportunities arise for me as a potential businesswoman. But I want to say, during this, you ain't come in there to go whitewash no history. Okay? Like this ain't oh no, we can't talk about that because it'll make the tourists uncomfortable kind of vibe. This is the tourists are prepared to entrench themselves in the experiences that produce this place.
They are.
And it is our job not to make them comfortable by hiding the information or changing it, but how we curate the overall experience.
Right.
Like what it is that you don't just leave them with their own guilt to process by themselves. You give them a way, a mechanism, an experience, or an opportunity to process that guilt by participating in a development program. Like, hey, they may say, you know what? These guys say they're doing a beach cleanup tomorrow morning. How about we join them on the beach cleanup, help out a bit, and then take a dip in the ocean, and then get back to the cruise ship.
And, you're totally right, because when you explain to people the whole picture, you leave it to them to decide how they want to manage the information. And I've seen that a lot of people like to have change when they find out how bad the situation is. You don't even have to convince them, hey, we want to do something about that. And so I love the idea of dark tourism for the Bahamas because I try to always show people we have a lot of dark stories that would tell us exactly how we are where we are today,
And listen, not just that, we have a lot of stories that other people on the planet, in the globe, advantage of and
Yes.
turning into their stories and their income generating mechanisms, right?
Tell me about it.
And for the 48th Independence celebration, wouldn't it be great if we Bahamians could take our own experiences, participate in the process of turning them into something, right? Like a monument or an income generating mechanism or a film documenting history. And so they have a cathartic or therapeutic experience participating in the shaping of their own history and documentation, and they can make money from it.
You speak in my language.
Boy, no. I ain't speaking your language. You ain't talking mangoes.
Because do I want to jump in?
Go on.
One of the. Do I want to start? Okay, one of the projects I'm working on is the same thing. We see a lot of Native or Caribbean or African stories told by persons who have no linkage to it, and they're making tons of money from it. So one of the projects I'm working on with Jakes McKinney, I got to shout him out.
Yeah.
He's a local illustrator, very, very awesome, is curating our own stories and getting it out to the world. And so, like I keep saying, a lot of our history around the world is dark history.
Right. And I can tell all y'all right now, I'm making the movie. So y'all don't make it, I'm making the movie. But my family members in Andros who are Chinese and worked comfortably with the U.S. Federal Customs and Border Control to make sure that Chinese could travel safely to the U.S. with the people they sold them to.
What?
I'm not saying that we're magicians or anything, but we used to do foolishness. And it's story worthy.
You got to explain that to me later on.
Yeah, man. But no, my family's history is we used to sell Chinese to people and to tourists.
How do you sell a Chicksawney?
Listen, that's the secret. I can't tell you that part. That's
Okay.
why we great. But
Okay.
this is something that happened and it's documented in local media and in international media.
Wow,
That's a
that's
story that a Bahamian should tell.
Yes,
Right?
it should be.
And I sitting here claiming that like that's my story I could tell, but everybody in Andros like, Miss Greene, if you try to tell that story without us, you can't come back to
You're
Andros.
a Bahamian. You have a right to tell that story.
Yeah, but at the same time, I want to give space to Androsians, like where the story is cradled.
Bring them up with you, elevate
Yeah.
them with you.
Absolutely. But look here, I ain't quite ready to get into the show yet.
Okay.
I still got some things I want to mention,
All right.
but it ain't gonna be plenty. The first thing off is you're looking at the papers today. If you're on the media, hopefully you are following a local weather track. Elsa, well, the storm Elsa is now a hurricane.
It is.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's what the track I saw this morning says. So I have some quick questions for the DRA, that's the Disaster something Authority
Okay.
or something, and the ministries responsible. What is the plan? Where can we find it? Who could help us understand it? Who are your hurricane ambassadors?
Right.
Who are your liaisons in communities to help people who need information? Where are the shelters? Now that we're in COVID, obviously we need to, at the minimum, double the number of shelters that we have. Where are the building inspectors who were inspecting the shelters and inspecting buildings to ensure that they are safe and secure, right? Where are the food supplies and stocks for shelters in case people are stuck in them for an incredibly long amount of time? These are questions that people need answered. And this information should have already been made available to the general public at the beginning of hurricane season. We are already 1 month in. Another point here, else COVID testing on July 31st. I see nothing but logistical headaches and madness at play and in our future. And so I want to say two things. I hope that this is a part of an extensive and well thought out plan, right? Not just to improve the logistics of the delivery of the service for tourists and Bahamians leaving the country, but also to ensure that we are spreading the wealth evenly. But here's what my concern is. How do we ensure that tourists are not being prioritized over Bahamians in this pursuit? How are we going to ensure that Bahamians have equal and equitable access to these same testing facilities? Right? Yes, tourism is our big thing. Yes, all of our eggs are in one basket. We still should not be disadvantaging Bahamians in their own country over tourists. And so again, I say, where's the plan? Where can we find the plan? Probably the last point before we move on. This is just a quick note. In today's edition of the Tribune, there is an interesting article. In fact, it's also on the head, in the front of the Tribune paper. Canoe Chief, it's all above board. I can be honest with you. I read parts of this first story and in the main section, and I read the two pieces in the business section. And the first question I want to ask you, young men, because I saw the picture of the three seem to be leaders of the organization. I got a really quick question to ask you guys. Do you think that you are BPC? Do you think that you could just come in here and say anything to us because, like, you're a foreigner? Listen, did you all reread your comments before you all gave them to the media? I don't have enough time to really get into it. I guess that may be a little irresponsible of me, right? But I want to say this to the chief principals at Canoe, the Canoe founders. What is it that you're expecting here? So first of all, stop accusing people of political mischief. All right? I want to know what's happening with Canoe. Bahamians want to know how y'all got the contract. Bahamians want to know what the process was. Bahamians want to know, how did it move from the NIB payments to the whole government platform? These are things you have to answer to Bahamians, not no political operatives. And nobody really concerned about the technology except for whether it works or not. And as a Bahamian sitting on the sidelines, it didn't seem to be working for a very long time. And considerable numbers of Bahamians were complaining about a lack of access to a service that they really, really needed. And I can be honest with you. If that's the attitude you're going to take, we don't care about your technology. Take it and put it in a bag and bury it in the ground. You can't hold the government hostage because the government is the Bahamian people. Why y'all get caught up so easily in this political culture? I can be honest with you. The means do not justify the ends. And it's as simple as that. And this is a bad look for the FNM right now, because it moves us on to a second question about the young professionals housing scheme. And the first, policy makers will have the last say on who gets a lot. Sure, the committee will put together a short list of qualified candidates. Why couldn't the committee pick the people? Why do policymakers have to pick the people? Now you see why ordinary Bahamians are concerned about what's going on here with the allocation of national resources. See, I ain't supposed to be talking about Rodney Munker because I tell Rodney Munker, don't talk about me unless I talk about him, right? But Rodney Munker made a massively important statement when he was appointed a senator about two meats and how excited he was to be in a place where there's two meats. And I think you all missed the point of his commentary. These are national resources. And the political culture has decided, and the political class has decided, that these are their resources to be given to who they see fit. But that ain't what this independent Bahamas is about anymore. Right? So to the chief principals at Canoe, the means do not justify the end, or the ends do not justify the means. We are not that desperate for this technology that we will suffer any foolishness. And in case you don't, the power can't stay on at home, at the bank. The systems can't stay up anywhere. Anywhere. So what it is you're really offering us? I mean, you get it yet? There's nothing really spectacular about anything that you're doing. Not to the ordinary people in this country that rely on systems and services to work for their survival. Because your system ain't working. And that's it. Now, I didn't mention anything about that professional housing scheme, but I'm going to. I'm a young professional housing scheme, but I'm going to soon. Because this reeks of madness. We're in the midst of a housing crisis. People in Abaco still trying to figure out how they're going to resettle in Abaco so they could vote before the next election. But for some reason, they can't do that because ain't nobody going to tell them when the next election is. Even though they have a 6-month requirement of being in that area to be able to register there. But you building lots for young professionals? Does start making any sense? Well, maybe it's just because of where I sit. Because when you sit at the top of the mango tree, every time different. Oh man, I got a text here that says, Miss Greene, 3 straight, FNM, better to come. Buddy, today is not Jokes Friday, it's Culture Friday. I don't want to run on with jokes like that anymore. But I think you missed the point, Texter. It's too late. You have more to come. You had 4.5 years. You had 4.5 years. I had a perfect slogan. Sat down with the team from the Eye Opener, Guardian show that comes on Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. And I was asking them to come up with some campaign slogans. And the best slogan was 6 more years. All we need is 6 more years. Don't let the people swing you with that campaign slogan this time. Arlington, I see we got a caller on the line. Good morning, caller.
Hey, good morning, Erin.
Hey, how you do it?
I am great, and good morning. Good morning to you. I think that's a guess or
Mr. Sherlin Gaudet.
Good morning, sir. Ms. Greene, Independence is coming up, right?
Yeah.
And I consider myself as a patriotic and a person who believes in the country that I live in. Mm-hmm. I feel that I maybe in no great big way, I do impact or do something to give back.
Yeah.
All right. Now, how be living in a country and you don't have no hope? In some cases, you don't have nothing to hold on.
Do it. Pause right there. I can show you why. I am privileged, right? I can say that right off the bat. I tell people that all the time. I'm privileged. And so every time I hear you call in the radio station, that's my hope there. And I hope that young men and young women and people who feel and find themselves in that hopelessness, right? Mm-hmm. That when they hear other Bahamians engaging the public, engaging the media, to share their concerns, to share their ideas and suggestions, that they cling to that as hope.
But, Ms. Greene, you know something? People have asked me, say, do it. Why do you waste your time calling a talk show and you could find something to eat? Or you could jump in a car, you could have a roof over your head, or you have everything to your leisure to a point. Uh-huh. But I say, listen to me. What about God blessing me and God putting people in my life to make it possible for me to have something to eat or whatever the case may be? But what about the brother and sister there who can't even open up their mouth to ask for something because they don't have the voice, Ms. Greene, or they don't even have the strength to have something in their belly to even gotta feel for them?
But okay, I gotta go to it, but I can tell you what to tell them people when they say that to you. What you're gonna tell them is, King Man, I rely on you. That when you see that I am down and I can't do it for myself after all I have given these other people, I rely on you to give me a hand up. Right?
Yeah,
and so I can't have hope unless you have hope.
Before you go, I'd like to say this. Everybody throughout this country have a safe weekend. It's a little hurricane, whatever. Try to get some kind of shelter. Take care of your family and show love, man. That's what we are all about.
Absolutely.
Love.
Absolutely.
Have a good weekend and be safe, Miss Greene.
Yeah, man. You look here, DeWitt. You have an awesome weekend. And
hey, when you put God in anything, you have more than awesome. You have a blessed weekend.
Yeah, man, and be encouraged because people hear you on the radio and say, "This boy is willing to put it on the line for me and for others."
Anytime it makes sense. Anybody who knows me, hey, PLP, F&M, DNA, whatever you call yourself, once it's for the Bahamian people, you could always call on me.
Absolutely. Thank you,
Once
Dewey.
the politics in it.
That's right. Thank you, Dewey. You too. Have a wonderful weekend. And if you see that your neighbors are struggling with some water, right, because it's raining and don't look like it could stop raining, at high tide, maybe it's coming through town, the tide. So be careful on the road at high tide. If you see your neighbors struggling with water, grab some garbage bags, grab some Ziploc bags, go over and help them make sure they could secure what they could secure. Be your brother's keeper. That's that music you playing there, Arlington? Now is a good time to go to a break. We're going to go to this break, and when we get back, we're going to continue delving into this conversation with Mr. Sherlin Gaudet. You're tuned into 96.9 Guardian FM Radio. We will be right back.
Crystal Cruises is setting sail for the Bahamas once again. Crystal will follow the strictest safety protocols as guests travel to Exuma, San Salvador, Long Island, and more. With a commitment to keep communities and guests safe and protect the environment, Crystal's decision to homeport in the Bahamas will boost tourism and support the local economy. Learn more at crystalcruises.com.
I've been representing all my life. I'm getting ready to make it count this time. Since it's 2021 for your family line, you better get ready. It's about that time. So tell mama to be ready. Tell it to the whole family. The rock the top forward too. The count depends on you. So tell Ted to go tell about your calendar. Since it's 2021, this one's for everyone.
Like what you're hearing on the show? Want to support the conversation? Sponsor On the Clock today. Call Janet Lees at 302-2304. That's 302-2304. Be the solution. Sponsor On the Clock with Erin Greene, where she dissects, we discuss, and you decide.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
Good morning and welcome back to Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. You are on the clock with Erin Greene and Mr. Sherlin Gaudet. Now, when we went to the break, like 4 or 5 texts came in one time, so I have to read them. If you don't mind, Sherlin, we can get right to them. Erin, how is it that the head of the country's stock exchange is allowed to be the CEO of Canoe, a company that has a major contract with the government? I don't know. And even, see, we're in this little state of emergency, right? So a number of the rules are relaxed. I do know that the government is still required to report to us about what they did, particularly when they didn't follow standard rules. So hopefully, we're to that soon, as opposed to people accusing ordinary Bahamians of playing politics. Another text, Miss Greene, that clown texter who texts every show talking about FNM Tree Straight is a real troll. Yes, he is a real troll, but he is paying his 6 cents. I'm going to take his 6 cents if he's paying it. But also, sometimes it adds for good commentary, you know. I just don't have the time to explain to him how inappropriate this form of campaigning is in that very moment. Because it's just those words, soon come. We're 4.5 months in. He sound like the boy who I sent down the corner to buy me 2 cigarettes. He soon come back with my change
Soon.
from my 20 from 2 cigarettes. All right, I got a long text here morning, Erin. There are hundreds, if not thousands, who will take advantage of the property offerings. I think this is a good initiative by the government. It is a good initiative, but it seems to focus on one small sector, a sector that is better suited to be able to find its own housing. We are in the midst of a housing crisis. Half of this story they're trying to tell you is a rude, disrespectful Haitian migrant problem. That's not what it is. It is a housing problem that leads to so many other problems. Like we have young people in transition from the family islands to New Providence that to live, so they end up with predators or in unsavory communities or in unsavory conditions and homes, unable to protect themselves. This is a serious thing. But I appreciate what you're saying. Yes, young people, they're working hard. They deserve a piece of the pie as well. But we all have to look at the pie that we're sharing and then look at each other and ask if we're really doing a good job of sharing equally and equitably. DeWitt and other PLP callers try to paint this narrative that hopelessness just came about under this administration. Many Bahamians are not hopeless, and while I won't reduce their pain, we need to stop these lies that it is widespread. I'm tired of these narratives. We try to paint that the government is completely worthless. While they are not perfect, we have to all elevate ourselves as Bahamians. In that way, those we elect will reflect the best in us. I mean, that's an important point that you make. At the root of shifting the political culture is shifting our personal and collective and social cultures, right? That's at the root of it. At the same time, your former argument really only works on those who are caught up in this partisan political rhetoric. Yes, there are lots of people with plenty of money out there, and there are lots of people without. And what we have to ask ourselves is, in this capitalist game, how can everybody be trying to make the same 100%? Surely, if one person makes 100%, now, I ain't too good on math. When I did my math A-level, the grade I got was PLP math, right? I don't know if that's a fail or a pass. It depends on what government's in power. But what I'm saying is, I ain't too good on math. And the campaign, another text, and the campaign against the government continues on Guardian Radio. Oh, my, the campaign against the government. You mean consistent political critique? That's all. And when the PLP in power, it happens to them too. That's all. Another text, it is a conflict of interest that the chairman of BISIX has a government contract. Can you say insider trading? I can't say insider trading because I don't know if that's technically what it is. But I do remember when the chairman of BPL tried to submit the company that he had interest in a contract for BPL. And then he said, well, this is really a big deal. And nobody said, hey, sir, maybe you should resign now. It's a bad look. It's untoward. It lacks integrity. Maybe you're tarnishing the reputation of the whole company. Nobody told him to step down, did he? If it's a problem for one, it's a problem for everybody, right? I hope so. Or it should be. Another text, just quickly, there's another service, Michael, that's almost finished. This is another set of opportunities for the ordinary Bahamian. This smacks of class privilege. Yeah, go build your lot in Carmichael. If you can't get in this one. You know the difference in the properties? Prospect Ridge, eastern end of the island, higher property values. Yes, higher property tax, it's higher property values. Come on, man, this country is to share between everybody. Everybody. Arlington, it's a caller on the line? Caller, you got 30 seconds.
Yes, sir. I'd like to know if the Chinese are progressive or capitalist.
You want to know if the Chinese are progressive or capitalist?
Yeah, Chinese.
Oh, the Chinese. Yeah. Oh, the Chinese are progressive.
If they PLP or having them, all them capitalists.
No, the Chinese are not capitalists. They are progressives, but we're a different type of progressive.
So when you're going to educate the Bahamian people to teach them really what a progressive is? They think a progressive is a PLP, or something that's aggressive. Time for us to have some progressive radio, progressive party in this country. You can't be both progressive and liberal as it pertains to economics. Thank you.
All right. I would like to be honest with you. Caller, thank you for that. I can tell you I probably missed the critique because I don't know what it means to be progressive versus liberal in economics. The rule of capitalism in the Bahamas, and that is poor people must die so mediocre people could live their best lives. That's it. That's all we practice here. But we finish with that. First of all, I have to say thank you to Cultural Experience Productions for providing me with another phenomenal guest who's been biting his tongue to not engage in this political commentary this morning, Mr. Sherlin Godet.
I didn't know that you'd notice, but yeah. Zip.
No, man, and what it is that sometimes I be saying some spicy, feisty things, and I don't want people to feel like I led them into this discourse I'm having. Because like you see, one of them texts is mad at me.
I see.
Yeah. I don't want you to get painted with that same brush.
No, I like to speak about things I'm educated on, and a lot of those things I'm not fully educated on,
Right.
So, I tend to stay out of it.
I got you. I mean, this is why it's important for Bahamians to pick up your paper.
Agree.
Right?
I agree.
Even if you say, I can't afford a paper every day, find somebody in your household and y'all share the daily cost, right?
Yeah, do that.
Pick up the paper, go online, go to the website, check out the stories, because you'd be surprised what's of interest to you.
No.
Right?
And, and I have to say, thank you for persons like you are on the ball who hold people accountable, because a lot of the work that you do, it helps us out. And, sometimes we reap the benefits even though we don't even know, we get this little something, or less. Thank you. So thank you to us.
Yeah, man. Sometimes it's not about having the answers for people, but it's about highlighting the questions.
I
know?
agree.
So, Mr. Godet, I know you as a marketing professional, but introduce yourself and tell us about your whole portfolio of work.
All right, where do I start? So thank you for having me on the show, and thank you for everybody who is watching and listening, for your patience. Marketing professional for over 10 years. I could go back the whole 10 years and tell you all of the experience I have. But, I like to start off by saying that I'm very, very blessed to do what I do. And it hasn't come without, hard work and, a little bit of luck and a little bit of opportunity. But, I'm happy to be where I am.
Mm-hmm.
So now I've been working for myself for the last 3 years, doing what I do. And so if I were to categorize it, I'm a marketing consultant, I'm a producer, and I'm a partner in a few companies. One of them is Conk by Marketing,
Okay.
of which, you did your research on. You saw what that's about. I'll explain a little bit more. Another one is Franchise Media Graphics. And so, I'm happy you brought me on to speak about the orange economy. Mm-hmm. Because that's pretty much what's keeping the food on my table. And, in the state of things now, I can say that the orange economy is growing in the Bahamas. And at this point, we do need like a few different things to make ends meet. Mm-hmm. And so I'm very blessed with the skills that I've learned and, the opportunities that
Quick question, in your field of marketing, right, what has been the hardest product or service or thing for you to market? And what is the hardest type of thing to market?
I wouldn't say hardest, because, what I like to do is just be creative. And so the harder something is, the more creative you have to be. Mm-hmm. And so I can't say anything is the hardest. What would be the hardest?
Well, what was, for you, what was the thing that you thought would be most challenging?
I could tell you the hardest experiences you have is where someone brings you in, they tell you they want a unique idea. They want something out of the box. You present them with something out of the box, and then they dumb you back down to something that's standard, stale, and ordinary.
Yeah.
And you have to see it through. That's the worst. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? You spend days writing something out. You come with something creative, and then they're like, I want the price, I want the location, and then I want somebody to just stand there and talk. That's what you call me for?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So that's one of the hardest part about marketing. But, in the Bahamas, it's growing, where we have a lot of people who do what I do, who have the international experience, and they get to bring it home. Mm-hmm. And, slowly by slowly, we're getting to the age now where we are some of the decision makers, and we get to say, and now this is how we want to do it now. So that's a little bit of optimism.
All right. See, for me, I make soap, right? And I sit there trying to think, how I can market this? I had to come up with a slogan, right? A pitch, or not a pitch, a slogan for my little commercial. I market soap, everybody is paid. It's hard to market. And then I realized that I'm making VAT soap, right? VAT soap so you could afford to bathe every day.
Why? Because it's on it's a breadbasket item?
No, because the vast majority of local soap makers are making soaps to target a high-end tourist market.
Right.
So some of the finest produced soaps are out of the reach of the ordinary Bahamian.
Right.
Right? The most beautiful, and these people out here making the most beautiful. See, I want you all to know I ain't dissing y'all. Y'all making the most beautiful products with some of the most wonderful local ingredients, like locally picked sage and thyme, bush, and fever grass and thing for your skin, right?
Yeah.
But I can't afford to bathe every day with the soap.
Yeah.
It's soap you got to go bathe for prom and Mother's Day only. I'm making soap so people could bathe every day, VAT soap, so you could pay your cable bill and bathe your children every day.
That's awesome.
Right? But I'd say, how do you market something that's so mundane that everybody buys all the time. How do you get them to buy your thing?
A lot of creativity, because one of the things they teach you in marketing is that something they called brand loyalty. What we do in the Bahamas, we call every dish dishwashing liquid Joy.
Yeah.
Why?
Because that's the proper thing.
Because Joy did such a good job and they got everybody, hey, Joy is the standard, right? So when you could market something that's mundane and you could make it like the standard, that's when you've achieved, a great job in marketing.
Right. The commercials that stick out to me the most are the ones that I want you all to take this in the spirit it's offered. I call them crack commercials. They don't make any sense. They're not actually selling a product.
You know what? I had a conversation with some guys in production last night. Let me give some shout out to the couch champions, to Xander Sherman and to Theo.
Well, they're the couch champions.
That's one of the things I do. We have a podcast named The Couch Champions, Fantasy Football. So shout out there.
Okay.
And all of us are in production, and all of us were sharing some of the difficulties we had with making commercials for the local market.
Right.
And we were saying, hey, some of these commercials, you don't have to say your standard price and whatever. All you're doing is selling an idea. Geico was what you would call a crack commercial, right?
Right, that's where it started, the caveman.
Right.
Right?
And then there's an insurance company that has...
It's an emu.
emu.
I know these things, right? And I never buying these people insurance.
But it sticks out. You remember it.
Right, so here we are in the Bahamas. We selling the Bahamas to tourists, right?
Right.
But you don't need to sell vacation. Everybody's going vacation, right?
But you do need to sell the idea that the Bahamas is the standard of a vacation.
Yeah, but we don't even need to do that anymore. I'm moving on to progressive standards. I want a commercial with them launching astronauts from the Bahamas, right? Because what it does is it puts the Bahamas, every time somebody laugh or they hear a good joke, boy, that's almost as funny as that joke about the Bahamas.
Yeah, but I can also say that we have done a good job, but we have to stay on it. But the Bahamas, if you watch any Netflix shows, 90% of the time they're talking about vacation, they mention the Bahamas. So I gotta say, we've done a good job, but we gotta stick to it because
Okay. So right in there, Mr. Marketing Specialist, right?
Right.
I'm very upset at the Ministry of Tourism for doing too good of a job of marketing the Bahamas.
How so?
Because Bahamians over the last 30 years forget that the Ministry of Tourism is not marketing the Bahamas to Bahamians. They marketing us to tourists.
Which they should do, right?
Our tourism product is like a play. But except all the Bahamians in the audience waiting for the show to start. Our show ain't started yet. And we forget we are the people putting on the show.
Right, okay, I'm glad you said that.
Right, because Ministry of Tourism done make us think we on vacation too. That's how good their ads are, right?
Yeah.
So, Mr. Marketing Guy, how are we going to remarket our country to Bahamians to get them to understand the joy and the value of having an opportunity to build their own country?
That's a part of it, but it's a very small part of it. And, like I say, I'm a marketing consultant. And so I would tell you to spend your money where you could get the most bang for your buck.
I'm trying to get secrets out of this boy.
Right?
Okay.
So spend your money to get your most bang from your buck. We live here, it ain't no big whoop to us. And so, yes, there is a push. Hey, go to the family islands, spend some of your money locally. But that's not where the GDP is going to come from, where we're going to get a lot of big bucks. Right? We're getting it from the work that tourism is doing in Canada, United States, and Europe. And so I can say that they're doing a good job. Bring them over here.
But what about me? I want to feel special. I want to feel...
Well, you go on vacation.
No, the government spend your money at home.
Yeah, but we doing that. But I tell my clients, spend your money where you get the most bang from your buck. And even with orange economy, right? A lot of my peers or people who I know, it's very hard to do business with them. They feel like they giving their money to somebody. Oh, you could be richer than me. No, I just trying to make a living.
Well, look here.
Right?
A question I wanted to ask is does it feel like Bahamians only want to make things for and provide services for people who aren't Bahamian?
Because that's where the money is, right? And that's another thing where creatives are. We do things because we're passionate about it, but at the end of the day, we have to eat,
Right.
right? And so you giving me likes ain't gonna pay my bills. I have to take my task and my talents to where I can get money. And so the same thing tourism doing. I don't care if I don't ever see a Bahamas commercial locally. The impact is if the people in the States see it.
My cousin, I gotta take you to Chichani re-education camp. Oh man, see, you guys are super talented, right? And I
Right.
get it. You gotta pay your bills.
You got to pay your bills.
And you shouldn't be locked into an identity that is like just Bahamian.
No,
right?
Because then you be a local celebrity, and where's that getting you?
But you be a local celebrity, and in the fans and in the hearts of 400,000 are the best people.
No, because they don't pay my bills.
Okay, so how are we going to create infrastructure
Right.
locally to enable young creatives, right, to make money?
Right.
And I'm not worried as much about keeping the money at home.
Right.
It's about keeping the talent linked to the Bahamas. I don't want to lose you, whether I could afford to pay you or not. How else can I compensate you as a young creative to invest yourself in the Bahamas?
Now I like that question, and that's a very, very deep question, because I say again, I've been very blessed, and watch this. I'm very blessed because for most of my career, I've worked for international companies that operate here, and that's a blessing.
Yes.
That is a blessing. So from the beginning, Heineken, and go ahead.
No, okay, so see, that's it right there, because I appreciate what you sharing with me.
Yeah.
Right? Because here I am telling Bahamians, root yourself in your Bahamian identity. And Bahamians are saying, look, whether you call me ontologically American,
Right.
which is you so consumed by American systems you forget you Bahamian, or a global, ontologically American or a global citizen, I want to experience and be a part of a world that is larger than the Bahamas.
Yes.
Right? And I can't stop you from feeling that.
Yeah.
Right? But I need to figure out how to incentivize you
Agree.
to prioritize your talent in the Bahamas.
Yep.
Because I done seen one movie called Knocking the Conch Style and Knocking the Conch Style 2, Bahamian martial arts movie
Wow.
with them flying and all the sound effects and the all of that, right? There's some super talented them here.
Yeah.
But we won't be able to take advantage of the capacity of the orange economy or the tourist market, right? The presence of tourists in the Bahamas, if my creative minds feel freer and freer to create somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I've been blessed, so I can create, but it's been for international companies.
Right, and this is it right here. So imagine
Right.
you could get
So-
an international company with international resources, international perspective on doing business, on workplace culture, and on social culture, but in the Bahamas, where you from, right? See, now I feel a little bit better about the Commercial Enterprise Bill, which facilitates the creation of or the relocation of foreign businesses in the Bahamas.
Yeah,
If it
that helps.
will create a space for young creatives
Yeah.
to stay in country.
Yeah, because a lot of us, and especially people who have graduated with, they've stayed in Canada. That's where I've been educated. Acadia, big up Acadia. And, a lot of them ask me why I come home. And again, I have to say I'm blessed. I am one of the few that are able to find opportunities. But, there's only a certain amount of opportunities here. And a lot of us, especially who go off and they spend this 70,000, 100 and something thousand on being educated, we gotta go. We gotta go right back over there and find and make use of our education and our knowledge.
Yeah, and that's a big thing, especially if you. Because I was going to ask you, were you professionally trained, right, or is this something that you learned
So
on
that's
your
the
own?
thing. Yeah. So that's the thing. Throughout my over 10 years, I am both professionally trained. I am also locally trained by some of the same people I've worked with. What I love to do and what I enjoy doing is finding local talents, local creatives, and making projects so that all of us can work all of us can be exposed and all of us can eat and get a little something.
Well, you definitely can't leave the Bahamas. But look here, I can't even give you a last word because we are at that 11 o'clock minute, and I get a couple more texts here. Let me read these texts quickly. The text says, this is in reference to the canoe issue. He has the ability to influence and manipulate stock buying and selling based on information he is available to Erin. I knew that texter. I knew that both situations are absolutely and totally and horribly wrong, you know. It's not me. It's the powers that be that don't see the problem. I'm with you, texter. Another text, do you think it should cost $57 3 days? No, especially given the lack of security provided. I think that is horrible, and you should not park your car there unless you have a bad head Grammy who is thief your car when you go on vacation and do badness with her church sisters. Then yes, leave your car at the airport. Another text as we go, Miss Greene, how is the Kalani Project a good housing initiative when it benefits the minority and not the majority of Bahamians? The minority don't win elections. The majority, i.e. the small man, is. I hope Bahamians wake up. Furthermore, how can we Bahamians elevate themselves when every time Bahamians try getting something for themselves, there are obstacles placed in front of them? Then they will turn right around and say all Bahamians do is look for handouts. I feel you, and we've had an interesting conversation this morning with a young man who has expressed to me, despite my pleading, he has expressed very clearly the dynamics that caused to leave this country. But we ain't letting them leave this country anymore. It's our 48th independence celebration coming up, and we kidnapping all talented young people and committing them to the dedication of building this country. I mean, maybe, possibly, if they let us. Because they are Bahamians and they have the rights to.
Pay us. That's the chain that binds. Just pay us.
I got you, sir. I got you. I understand your language. Thank you for sitting in with us today, Bahamas.
Let me squeeze in one more last word.
Yes, sir.
Hey, let me shout out all the local creatives. We doing a good job. We building something that, maybe we may not fully benefit from, but in the end, we're going to make a greater Bahamas.
Absolutely.
A little bit of optimism.
And when you come back, you're going to tell us who Conch Boy is and how, because I need to know. Because my first son, nickname could be Conch Boy.
Big up Lovato Stubbs, who I work with a lot.
Absolutely. Good morning, Lovato Stubbs. I'm teething your name. Have a great day, Bahamas. Thank you for tuning into my show, and stay tuned for Levan Miller and Unleashed. He's coming up right now. Have a great day.